Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a report looks into a case of severe child neglect. Victoria's mayor is promising change when it comes to the city's street crime, and a bombshell verdict has emerged in the trial of P. Diddy.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslin, and here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond today. Youth, conservation groups, and communities are concerned about the BC government approving the Substantial Start application for the Prince Rupert gas transmission pipeline, but others from within have different ideas. CFTK-TV's Jaylene Matthews has more details.
A release from concerned groups and communities are saying that the province's decision to approve the Prince Rupert gas transmission pipeline's substantial start lacks free, prior, and informed consent from all impacted nations, as well as ignores active court cases on the pipeline. The decision extends the Western LNG and Nisga'a Nation-owned pipeline's decade-old environmental assessment certificate, despite opposition and legal action taken by the Gitineau hereditary chiefs, whose land the pipeline would cross. They say that only a small area of Nisga'a land was cleared last summer, which was accepted as substantial construction. This matter is currently under judicial review in the BC Supreme Court, asserting that the legally required effects assessment was not conducted. Kathy Clay, president of the Kispiox Valley Community Centre, called the decision profound environmental and social negligence. The PRGT pipeline would cross 1,360 waterways and 5 major watersheds. It would drill under the Babine, Skeena, Kispiox, and Nass rivers, as well as along the seafloor to Pierce Island. President of the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment says it threatens BC's ability to meet climate targets as well as raises health concerns. However, members of the First Nations Climate Initiative indicate otherwise. Eva Clayton, elected president of the Nisga'a Nation and FNCI founding leader, said recently FNCI and its partners have been advancing an interconnected set of projects and are directly mitigating the impacts of climate change. Facilitator of the First Nations Climate Initiative, Alex Grabowski, said the group is committed to offsetting climate impact.
So that you get to sort of net zero in terms of environmental impact. And then after that, you invest in restoration. And so you set up a fund that can fund restoration projects that not only compensate for the impacts that have occurred because you've already offset them, but actually improve environmental quality.
Parks and Environment Minister and North Coast MLA Tamara Davidson said in a statement, "I am confident that the Canadian Environmental Office has thoroughly and thoughtfully considered all the information, including the significant amount of interest from First Nations in the region and members of the public." Davidson said the project will be monitored through its lifetime. For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Among the many community events taking place during the summer in northwestern BC, the city of Terrace tried something a little different not too long ago. Terrace held what was called the Popsicles in the Park event at Georgia Little Park to celebrate June being Recreation and Parks Month. At the inaugural edition of the event, around 500 popsicles were given out, and the city thanked their staff and various partners for helping out. Now to a scathing look at how the authorities handled a severe child neglect case in Fort St. John and the interior. Last year, 3 siblings were removed from their home, and CTV News reviewed a report that provides insight into how the children weren't protected. Michelle Bernoro has the story and a warning: some may find the details disturbing.
There are precious moments like these when 3 young siblings find joy in simple play.
When they are happy and feel safe and loved, it really makes all of this so worth it.
But this relative, who is also the children's guardian, says the happy times are punctuated by the dark consequences of children who've suffered years of neglect.
It should never have gotten to where it did, ever.
We can't report the family's name or show their faces, but relatives describe the children as being feral when they were first taken into care.
The conditions were horror. That's all I could describe it as. They were living in feces, eating feces. There were malnutrition.
Family members told CTV News last year the children had been locked in their rooms daily, were nonverbal, and not potty trained. An investigation by the Office of BC's Ombudsperson lays out the ministry's failings. It found 6 documented reports to social services raising concerns about neglect involving the children. The ministry received the first of these reports approximately 4 years before it took action to ensure that the children were protected from harm. The probe found some reports to social services were screened out at least partially due to communications issues, and it appears the ministry failed repeatedly to follow its own policies, including not doing an in-person visit following reports of neglect and failing to take action because the family moved, even though the ministry received another report of concern just 12 days later. RCMP visited the family's home on 2 occasions, including in May 2023.
The RCMP member found one of the children down the road with no clothing on.
But the report says social services didn't take action because police attended their home and informed the ministry they had no concerns. The siblings were finally taken into care in December 2023 after their own parents told social workers they could not look after the children. It was then a ministry worker attended their home and found extensive evidence of neglect.
There's been no accountability. No one's been held accountable as far as the ministry, the RCMP, nor the parents.
I've asked over and over and over again, who's going to be held responsible for what's happened to these kids?
CTV News repeatedly requested an interview with the Minister of Children and Family Development, but we were told she had no availability for 4 weeks. Instead, her office issued a statement saying it could not talk about the specifics of the case due to confidentiality. CTV News also reached out to the RCMP, who said there is an ongoing and complex investigation into the care of the children and whether it meets the threshold of a criminal offense. Meanwhile, the ministry says it has made changes, including updating policy, so when the ministry receives multiple calls, it prompts a supervisor to take another look at the situation. And that following a special audit, staff have recently received additional training on screening child protection reports. But family members say years of inaction by the ministry have had profound and lifetime impacts on the children.
The system failed not only the kids, but the family itself, because had someone stepped in and maybe said, this is what has to be done. You have to be able to, get counseling, you have to do this, you have to get medical treatment if you're having issues. Maybe they could have still been a family and we wouldn't be where we are. And the kids would have gotten early intervention help. But that didn't happen. And it only got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Their guardian saying she has concerns not just for these kids, but for other children whose suffering may also have been ignored.
I wonder and worry all the time how many other children are locked in their bedrooms not being checked on.
Michelle Bernoro, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next, BC made some changes after 2021's heat dome, but have they actually worked? Welcome back. It's been 4 years since we learned of the death toll from an unprecedented heat wave. The 2021 heat dome prompted changes in how BC handles extreme temperatures, but was it enough? CTV's Penny Daflos reports.
It was a record heat wave meteorologists saw coming, but no one expected it to be so deadly, with British Columbia's medical and emergency response agencies unprepared.
The usual response that we have based on what happened in 2009 clearly was not sufficient.
Poor communication to the public overwhelmed hospitals, and the collapse of BC emergency health services.
It was apocalyptic that night.
Saw at least 619 people die in the days and weeks that followed. The BC coroner found nearly all had perished indoors. Most were older, poor, and lived alone.
It's indoor temperatures that can be the biggest risk for people.
The health authorities and emergency officials have made big changes to how they communicate the risks of extreme heat and have developed a comprehensive response plan outlining priorities and levels of alert.
Despite all the things that have been done since the 2021 heat dome, we still hear from seniors who are raising concerns about extreme temperatures. There's still confusion around how to get notified about heat warnings, not sure when to leave their homes.
Several studies, including a new one from UBC, are now advocating for what they call the right to cool.
It's not a luxury, and it's interesting to think of this in comparison to smoke alarms. So, when you move in somewhere, you don't expect to pay more because there's a smoke alarm. It is just, basic safety. And I think with the changing climate, we need to think of cooling in that sense too.
4 years after the deadliest weather event in Canadian history, there's no public memorial nor any plans for one. If somebody were to step forward, perhaps a fitting location could be the grounds of the legislature to remind policymakers of their obligations to the most vulnerable. Penny Dafla, CTV News, Vancouver.
As frustration mounts over street crime and disorder in Victoria, their mayor is promising significant changes. The city's reshuffling its budget to add funds that address public safety. As CTV's Rob Buffer reports, it comes after a downtown business owner was assaulted.
Dealing with street disorder has become a regular and major problem in BC's capital. Today, its mayor announced more than $10 million in funding to address public safety, including to hire 12 new bylaw and 9 police officers ASAP.
It's been a bit of a blight for sure, and it's one of the reasons why we're moving now.
Victoria's Pandora Street is ground zero for the problem, fueled by homelessness, mental health, and addictions.
It's been difficult for businesses, it's been difficult for their employees, it's been difficult for customers. But this kind of bold action is exactly what businesses are looking for.
Case in point, this downtown bike shop. Its owner attacked 3 days ago when closing his store. A man smashing a bottle on his wrist, breaking it. This outdoor retailer, around for 96 years, says it's been spending more and more money on security and welcomes today's news.
There's a lot of businesses in town whose revenue is down, especially if they have clientele that doesn't feel as safe coming down here.
The plan also involves moving people living on the street here elsewhere to temporary housing. It's not known yet where that will be or when exactly it'll happen, but the mayor did promise today there will be tangible improvements to this area and the downtown core generally within half a year. Victoria's police chief called it great news.
The current situation that we have is unacceptable. Status quo is not an option.
The millions to address lawlessness and safety aren't coming from new taxes. Instead, out of housing reserves and other previously planned projects, including upgrades to Centennial Square and Royal Athletic Park.
This can't wait. In 6 months, you'll see a difference.
It's a promise many have waited years to see and desperately want fulfilled.
A prominent BC curler was diagnosed with a rare neurological condition that's paralyzed her from the chest down. The Abbotsford native is getting treatment in Saskatchewan and has a long recovery ahead of her. CTV's Martin McMahon has more.
Brooklyn Alexic is taking on the fight of her life with a smile. The 20-year-old University of Victoria student has been diagnosed with transverse myelitis. The disorder occurs when a section of the spinal cord is inflamed. Last month, while in Saskatchewan ahead of starting a summer job, Alexic woke up paralyzed.
Basically, within 2 hours of waking up that morning, she was completely paralyzed from her neck down.
Alexic grew up in Abbotsford and is the daughter of well-known curler Shannon Jonice, who has competed in the Scotties Tournament of Hearts 5 times.
She has a huge circle of friends. She's a ray of light in everybody's life. She's positive. She's a fighter, and Brooklyn thrives academically. She's going to UVic to be a elementary school teacher.
Alexic has had her own fame as well, appearing in the 2024 documentary Curl Power, which followed her Maple Ridge-based curling team. The film was screened in theaters across Canada, tracking the ups and downs of the team as the girls push to compete in the Canadian Junior Curling Championships.
No crying now. We have so many more games to go.
Alexic's former curling coach has started a GoFundMe, which has raised tens of thousands of dollars in support and hopes to raise more. But beyond money, what Alexic and others with her condition really need is for people to donate plasma.
At the end of this week, she will have had 14 plasma exchanges. And each plasma exchange takes approximately almost 13 donors to provide enough plasma for one exchange. And Brooke will have had 14, and that totals 175 donors. So Brooke, it's really important to her.
The family is hopeful Alexic will travel back to the Lower Mainland by next week, with the goal of one day being able to curl again. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now for a look at your nightly and weekly weather forecast. On the north coast, the forecast for tonight expects a few clouds at a low at 8 degrees, while the rest of the week should likely get a lot of rain and clouds too, with their high moving from 15 to 14 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the weather for tonight will likely include a chance of showers at a low at 11 degrees, and as for the upcoming week, they will also likely get lots of clouds and rain, as the high bounces between 21 and 13 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, tonight's forecast calls for a chance of showers and a low at 3 degrees, with the rest of the week getting some sun potentially, but still having mostly clouds outside of that, and a high that shifts from 23 to 19 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. Highway 16 has construction work, bridge maintenance, line painting planned, pothole repairs, road sweeping, and utility work. Highway 37 has bridge construction, bridge maintenance, a material spill, and crack sealing. Highway 37A is still dealing with falling rocks between west of Izziated and east of Stewart and paving operations. And the Nishka Highway has some line painting planned as well. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, Vancouver has been a regular place for mysterious UFO-based sightings. Welcome back. A bombshell verdict emerged in the high-profile case against rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs. CTV's Adrian Gabriel speaks on his downfall and what happens next.
Waving and smiling, the Combs family exited this New York City federal court. As protesters came face to face with supporters of Sean Diddy Combs, emotions running at a fever pitch, just moments after the jury delivered their split verdict.
Let Puffy go! Let Puffy go!
Delivered on the third day of deliberations, the jury of 8 men and 4 women declared the 55-year-old Combs not guilty of 1 count of racketeering, conspiracy, and 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, but guilty of the lesser charges of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs, who's already been incarcerated for 10 months, could still face considerable prison time. At sentencing, each of the prostitution transportation charges carry as much as 10 years behind bars. While Combs' lawyer declined to comment,
we'll be saying something soon.
Multiple criminal law experts are declaring today a victory for the former hip-hop mogul.
It's absolutely a win. The defense took a really big gamble going to trial on this case.
The prosecution called 34 witnesses to the stand, multiple ex-girlfriends, including singer Cassie Ventura, who claimed that Combs forced her to engage in sexual encounters called, quote, freak-offs and hotel nights. Jurors watched this 2016 hotel video of Combs dragging and kicking her. Ventura's lawyer stopped short of calling today a victory for his client.
We're pleased that he's finally been held responsible for 2 federal crimes, something that he's never faced in his life. He still faces substantial jail time. Of course, we would have liked to have seen a conviction on the sex crimes in RICO, but we understand beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard.
With this decision, Combs avoids a possible life sentence. Moments after the verdict was read out, his family began to cheer in the courtroom as the one-time music star appeared to fall to his knees in prayer. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Washington.
Are we really alone in the universe? That's the question astronomers and stargazers constantly look to answer. What's known for certain is that Vancouver is the top city for mysterious sightings. Sidjid Alexander has more.
It's an unidentified flying object.
There are hundreds of sightings every year in this country, thousands around the world.
What? What is that?
Most of the time, there is a logical explanation, and they're filed away and forgotten. But several remain unsolved, even by the Pentagon and NASA.
Any interest anybody ever has in looking at the sky,
I want to talk about it.
On World UFO Day, stargazers had lots to say. Canada Sports Betting has compiled data from the National Unidentified Flying Object Centre and figures the odds of being abducted by aliens is highest in Toronto, followed by Calgary, and then Vancouver.
For me, I think maybe the aliens are fans of skiing. I know you guys, yeah, they could be fans of skiing. I know I've got a friend who lives in Vancouver, and he says there's a lot of weird, wonderful, colourful folk living there.
Now that list was compiled just for fun, yet there are those who swear they've experienced a close encounter of the third kind.
I didn't make this up. These beings are real.
CTV News interviewed Corina Sables in 2014. Her depiction of a night in Kelowna, about 10 years earlier, caught international attention.
What I saw was 5 sets of eyeballs. And there was one that was closer to us on the side of the road, and 4 were behind this gate.
All the observations that we ever see are by chance observations, and science cannot be done with by chance observations.
NASA now has an independent commission that investigates what it calls unidentified anomalous phenomena. Perhaps they'll be able to explain how these perfectly made shapes suddenly appeared decades ago in northern BC. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we look at how the stock markets look compared to yesterday. The Canadian dollar is up 25/10 cents. The price of gold is down $16.80. Oil is down 45 cents. Natural gas is down 8 cents. Aluminum is down $2. In Toronto, the TSX is up 164.60 points. The Venture Index is up 2.23. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 344.11, and NASDAQ is up 207.97. Welcome back. Canucks forward Brock Besser shed some light on the last-minute deal that kept him in Vancouver. CTV's Shannon Patterson has more.
Just minutes away from becoming a free agent, Brock Besser went to the gym, resigned to the fact he was moving on after 8 years as a Vancouver Canuck.
I was fully set on going somewhere else. So I had kind of a list of teams in my head that I thought maybe would be good fits.
Management has been saying Brock Besser has earned his right to check out free agency. And that was a very clear statement at that point that the numbers weren't there from the team standpoint.
Besser's agent was negotiating with other teams when Canucks GM Patrick Allvin called with a better offer than the reported 5-year, $40 million deal the right-winger rejected in February.
You know, I kind of lit up. Even after everything that's happened, I still kind of had that feeling in my stomach. And, you know, I just listened to it and, you know, it felt right when they started talking and trying to figure out a deal. I just started getting excited and, you know, I just knew it was meant to be.
Besser accepted a 7-year deal with the Canucks worth $50.75 million US.
The perplexing thing in all this is that a guy that they basically were trying to insist had no trade value all of a sudden is worth $50 million.
While the dollar amount and extra 2 years were big factors, it's clear the Minnesota native wanted to remain a Vancouver Canuck.
I've said it many times, Vancouver feels like my second home, and you know, it's just so comfortable, and you know, I love it there. So maybe I can get a house there now.
Besser also made a point of shouting out Canucks fans.
They've been so supportive of me. When you're just out and about and people say hi, everyone's so kind and respectful, and you know, that means a lot to me.
The 28-year-old says he's ready to turn the page on the turmoil of last season.
You know, I think just this year we can focus on, you know, really bonding as a group, coming together and pushing for the same goal.
Maybe it's that simple. They'll just win some games and we'll be talking about nothing but playoff hockey.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
That's our news for now. For CFTK-TV, I'm Cale Maslin.